Well, it looks like we're hitting 3 minutes after here, so we might as well get started. So I am going to call to order the Solid Waste District of LaPorte County District Board meeting and public hearing for February 10th, 2021. First up, the pledge. Commissioner Mrzinski, would you like to lead us?
No.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Matias, Commissioner Haney,
Present.
Mayor Dermody,
present.
Mayor Perry, Commissioner Mrzinski,
present.
Councilman Mullenhour,
Present.
Councilman Prespolinski.
Present.
Excellent. Thank you. Our first order of business is going to be to accept the minutes from the February 1st District Board meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Dermody, second, I believe, by Commissioner Mrzinski. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And it carries. All right. So at this point, we are going to open the public hearing. Just for a matter of parliamentary procedure, is public comment usually allowed? Usually comes at the beginning of this, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Normally, you open it, let the public have their say, and then it's the chairman's rules. If during the discussion you want to take some more public comment, you can. But normally, then you close the public hearing and go into the meeting part of the board.
Sure. So at this time, do we have any?
Before we do that, could I take care of a couple pieces of business real quick?
Sure. What have you got?
The first item is we did do the publication as the board had requested. We had our public workshop in February, and that was advertised in the Herald Argus 48 hours ahead of time, which was 1/28 of 21. And then our public hearing, we advertised it twice in the Herald Dispatch on 1/26 and 2/2. I'm sorry. The regional news on 1/28 and 2/4, and the Westville Indicator on 1/28 and 2/4 to meet our legal obligations for the public advertising. We did appear on Sound Off on February 5th to try to get the word out as much as we could to the public. And then we received I received two comments here at the office from folks that could not make tonight's meeting. So I want to enter those into the minutes if I could.
Yes, please do.
First was forwarded to me from Commissioner Mrzinski from a Mr. Ken Paxson. I support the proposed $2 increase for recycling. I use the curbside service and the yard waste site at the fairgrounds. The biweekly service is good and the compost facility is top notch and well run. Even with the increase, I think the service and access to the compost site is still a good deal. Ken Paxson, 1409 I Street, LaPorte. And the second one comes from Mr. Nick Otis. Dear Mr. Turner, last week I saw an article in the LaPorte County Herald Dispatch discussing increased user fees for LaPorte County recycling program. I cannot be at the meeting when this matter is discussed, so please consider this my public comment. While no one wants to pay more for services, I understand the need for a price increase and support the increase to continue this valuable service for our county. The reason for the increase is simple, a matter of economics. China, one of the largest purchaser of America's plastic recyclables, stopped buying, which dried up the market for these items. It was just a matter of time before this issue touched us in our county. The recycling program is a way for every resident in our county to help our environment by recycling and reusing items in our household. In our house, we try best to recycle more than we throw away. I support a price increase to continue this important program. I hope the board will consider reducing the price in the future if the market dynamics improve. Thanks, Nick Otis. That's the only two comments I received at the office.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Yeah, and just to inform everybody that I did bring this up at the council meeting last week. being a liaison to the LaPorte County Solid Waste District, and told everybody what we're looking at about the price increase, $2 a month, $24 a year, and told them that tonight would be the public hearing, and also emailed out all the information to get on the Zoom meeting this evening to all the council members. So I just wanted to let you know that all that information was passed out to the people in charge here in Michigan City. And I also did call the mayor's office and left that information with the mayor's office that tonight we would be having this meeting. And I know that he's been sick, so I don't know, how he's doing. I'm sure he's doing a lot better, I hope. But yeah, he was also notified of this meeting. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think we did do a pretty good job of getting the word out. I know I shared out on my social media anyway, a couple of times, including earlier today, that this meeting was going to take care of tonight.
Mr. Chairman, Tom
Yes.
Dermody, just as well, we did the same thing at our last city council meeting, and obviously we included in social media. And surprisingly, people were more concerned about the elimination of curbside than they were about the increase.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing myself. Generally speaking, I don't think virtually anyone wants to see curbside recycling eliminated. I know my office, I did receive one comment suggesting, reducing from twice a month to once a month pickup. But considering the volume, and I've spoke with Clay about this, considering the volume, I'm not sure if that's feasible to only pick up once a month. So, in any event, since we're entering our public comment phase, we'll open the floor to public comment one at a time. I will acknowledge you, and you'll have 3 minutes of public comment. Mr. Stevens, Al Stevens.
Yeah, Alan Stevens. I'm president of the South County Community Coalition. Our organization represents the 7 communities in southern LaPorte County. The statement I'd like to make is that the new compost site on Ziegler Road, it's a beautiful facility. It serves a wonderful purpose, but it disproportionately serves people in the LaPorte area and the center of the county. That being said, a good majority of the county outside of LaPorte and close vicinity are actually just more or less donors for that facility. And that being said, what I would like to see is maybe in southern LaPorte County at the Hannah County Highway Department, and maybe even down at La Crosse at their street department, they've demonstrated a possible willingness to work with you guys. Maybe a couple satellite drop-off sites for branches and yard waste.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Ms. Barron.
Hi, my name is Carrie Mars Barone. I'm a LaPorte resident.
Sorry.
That's okay. Everybody pronounces it. You can't put an accent on the O. My address is 205 North Street. I live in LaPorte. I'm in favor of the recycling increase. There are a lot of great services that the district provides, from electronics recycling to household hazardous waste, compost, branches, the curbside recycling. I would actually be in support of it being weekly versus once a month. We use it so regularly. Maybe it's an effort to look in waste reduction versus actually getting rid of recycling. But I'm in support of it. Something else I would also like to certainly encourage, if you think of it being $24 over 1 year, that's $2 a month. And it costs more than $2 to go buy a cup of coffee at a drive-through. If somebody who's a soda or pop drinker, one bottle of pop costs $2.29 at our local Speedway, and that one container can go in a recycling container. So I would love to see even some more drop-off site locations throughout the county, or even encouraging our businesses to support recycling. And when you walk out of a gas station, you could put something in a recycling container versus a trash can. So heavily in support of the recycling increase. Thank
so
you.
much. Appreciate it. Anyone else for public comment? We got someone else joining in here. We'll opportunity. Public comment is still open for anyone who would like to comment. Opportunity. Public comment is still open for anyone who would like to comment. Opportunity. Public comment is still open for anyone who would like to comment. And I would,
Mr. Chairman, if I could have an opportunity, I'd like to ask.
yes, Mr. Keel.
Could you help elaborate on what type of budget shortfall you guys are seeing, just for the record, if this increase is not enacted?
Sure. Clay, do you want to handle that, or would you like me to?
Whatever the chairman's choice.
If you have that information right there in front of you, feel free to go ahead.
I do, and this is kind of repetitious for the board members because you hear me say this all the time: is that recycling is never paid for itself. You know, we've always had surplus funds from the landfill, and that's always supplemented our budget. But in 2016, we received 2.5 million. We spent 3.4 million. 2017, we received 2.5 million. We spent 3.1 million. 2018, 2.495 million. We spent 3.124 million. 2019, 2.459 million. We spent 3.579 million. In 2020, we received 2,426,000, and we were targeted to spend 3,576,000. So as you can see, we were operating at about $800,000 to $1 million shortfall every year that we supplemented with our landfill fees. And going back from day one, it was always the big question, you know, do you have the residents pay for the cost of the service, even when you're sitting on a couple $1 million in your bank? And at that time, the board decided, no, we need to charge them something to make them feel that they're participating in the program and that it's their program with a minor fee, but it was always supplemented. So we was always running at about an $800,000 deficit.
And this $2 a month increase will cover all of that deficit then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It'll bring us into about $1,022,000 a year if everyone pays that fee.
Correct. Very good. I thought I saw a hand go up for Earl Cunningham. Councilman Cunningham, did you have any public comment? Thought I saw the hand signal.
You've got good eyes. You've got good eyes, Commissioner.
I'm trying to go through the list and make sure I look at every page of the names that are here because some of it's expanding my my view here. But please.
My only concern, and I've heard the explanation that we've run at a deficit all the time. My concern is that at the same time we're handing out government checks and trying to supplement incomes, and the renters aren't paying their rent, so consequently other people aren't paying their mortgage. That a 50% increase is huge, even though it's a small quantity, $2. It would seem to me like had we done this earlier and added 50 cents, and then a couple years later added another 50 cents, it's more acceptable. You know, when $2 is peanuts, I understand that, but it's still 50%. And there are some people that are paying 200 or 300 of these things because they have rental units, and they're not going to raise the rent from $300 to $302 to cover that. They've already got it absorbed. And that's the criticism I've heard from the most, is the landlord types that aren't even collecting their existing rent, but now we're adding 50% to their solid waste that they have to pay. Because it's on their taxes, you're going to end up paying it. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
If the chairman would allow, could I add some comment to Mr. Cunningham?
Go ahead, Mr. Turner.
For units that have 4 or more, for landlords who have 4 or more units, they already had a reduced fee. They only pay $3 per unit. That's been in place probably since 2012. And we intend to carry that forward through this increase also. So they'll only be paying $3 per unit if you have 4 or more units. So their rate actually will not go up.
So my question is it 4 or more, or is it 4? Is it more than 4?
It's 4 or more.
So if they have a 4 unit, they only pay $3 per. Okay, thank you.
That's
Mr.
good.
That's
Chairman,
helpful.
That-
may
Mayor
I ask
Dermody.
a question on that?
Mhm.
So Clay, I guess I missed that part. So apartment owners of 4 and more won't have an increase?
They will not.
I'm not sure
And our theory on that is that
I'm not sure they shouldn't pay something with everybody else.
Right.
and the reason we do that is that you have like a Normandy Village or a Maple Lane, the one over here on 18th Street that has multiple units. A lot of those we provide just either an 8-yard or a 30-yard dumpster for the residents to take their recycling to. They don't get the advantage of having it curbside. Most of the 4 units that are houses that are 4 units, it's one stop for the recycling driver, for allow him to it's one stop and he picks up a couple cans at that same residence. That was our thinking when that went into place.
Do you know how many accounts that fall into that?
I do not. We've been trying to get a handle on that, but we're having such a hard time with getting the numbers from the county on how many single family homes was paid and how many single family homes was collected, how many multiple family homes was billed, how many multiple family homes were collected. So we're still trying to work on that.
I guess my concern would be the exemption program versus paying what everybody else. I mean, nobody wants to do this on this board, and we all agree that it should have been done some time ago, but now we're in a situation. I just would throw out or ask the question, should there be an exemption on this increase?
And that might be something you might want to review at a later meeting. I mean, you're looking at a Normandy Village, say, that has 172 units, and we provide them a 30-yard dumpster. So we're actually coming out ahead at a Normandy Village type of apartment complex.
But
the Roseland Apartments, we provide them with 8-yard that we pick up once a week from them.
But what is their fee on a monthly average then, like at a Normandy Village or one of the others?
Well, you just take the 172 units times $3 a month.
And are the owners paying that, not the individual tenants?
I can't tell you how the actual owner passes that on, but it's billed on the taxes. So the corporation or the property owner would get the tax bill. Now, whether he passes that back, I could not tell you. But as we discussed earlier, that our fee currently, we were taking in $510,000 annually. I'm sorry. As you can see, it would come out to about $2,040,000 just on the 42,500 homes. But we're collecting around $2.5 million. So that extra $500,000 is from the multiple units that we're collecting.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree 150% with Mayor Dermody on this apartment complex. I don't know, for some reason, I don't remember ever hearing about this in our rate increase discussion, where these apartment buildings, if you have 4 or more apartments, you only have to pay $3 a month.
No, it would be, it's
no.
It'd be $12 a month.
Yeah. They should be on the same level. They should be on the same level as any homeowner. Because right now I'm asking everybody in my neighborhood, and even myself, to pay more money for curbside recycling. But then the people that own the apartment complexes and own Normandy Village corporations that are making probably quite a bit of money off of these folks living there, that they should also have to pay. Now, whether they pass that cost on to the folks that live there or they don't, that's up to them. But that cost should go across the board, in my estimation. And if this takes, another meeting to where we figure out how much more money we can generate to, curb this rate increase, maybe, I doubt it. But anyway, to see where it's going to fall into place financially, I think the board needs to do that and just not let that go, slide by with, not even an investigation on how much more money we could generate by having these apartment buildings with 4 or more have an increase. That's my take on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I look at it as, it sounds like what Mr. Turner was saying was that because of the ease of location pickups and the method in which they're collected and turned in, that's why the discount was offered to these 4 or more locations. I would think that, given that if we need to do a 50% raise, it should be a 50% raise across the board, meaning that, the 3%, the $3 should go up by 50% as well, if that's what we need to do. At least in my estimation, anyway, that's what I would think. If whatever percent increase is going to be done should be done across the board, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
Yep.
And if that's the case, then perhaps considering, I think if I heard you right earlier, right at about 2.1 million comes from individual homeowners, and about 400 to 500,000 comes from these multi-units. And if that's the case, then perhaps instead of a 50% increase, maybe then we'd be looking at a 40%. I haven't ran the numbers, obviously,
Yeah.
but we may then be able to pass, instead of $2 a month, $1.75 or something like that. Anywhere that we can save, just for the edification of the public who may be watching this either now or later, via ALCO. The meeting prior to this, we sat down all together and spent right at a full 2 hours going line by line through the budget. We were able to reduce it by about $100,000, which is good. But at the same time, it's important to note that we've after 2 hours, we squeezed about every penny out of the current budget that we could. And this is another great example of how we may be able to soften the blow of whatever increase that we need.
So, Clay, may I ask a question? So we're talking about apartment buildings. What about places like assisted living? Some of the assisted living all over that are congregate living. Do they have a one price per building?
Like the assisted living would be considered like a business. So they just pay their one user fee, but they don't get to use our service. They pay it as a goodwill gesture to the community, to help the community. But we don't provide them any recycling services at all. Their employees might use our different services. They're similar to like a Howmet. Howmet pays us the $48 a year, but they certainly don't have a curbside collection program from us. And we don't provide them any dumpsters in their parking lot.
So there's an opportunity for revenue. It seems to me that those are filled with 300 apartments. Most of those folks choose to live there in their senior years. Why don't we have a recycling program for them?
They're just considered a business, and we're a residential program.
But their apartments just like the apartment buildings, so I don't really understand that. I'm thinking of Rittenhouse on Cleveland Avenue. It's an apartment building full of 200 apartment units. So I'm just, we're trying to find ways to spread the cost among as many payers as we can, and just that's an opportunity for revenue, it would seem to me. But I do agree with Mayor Dermody and Councilman Prepolinski that we need to really make sure there's equity across all ratepayers, regardless of what kind of unit they live in.
And I don't challenge any of that. I think it's great to get as much income as you can from as a broad sector as you can also, but I believe doing those type of increases to those type of businesses and residents, you're going to see a lot larger outcry than you did tonight with just the residential folks. I mean, the apartment home owners now, as I believe it was Don or one of you gentlemen had said, that they're not paying their rent now, and now we're going to increase their cost an additional 50%. That they can't really pass. They can pass it on, whether they can collect it or not. That's strictly up to them. I just think it's a convenience for the apartment owners that have multiple units like that. That's not really costing us any more to service them, but that's strictly a board decision.
That was my point, Clay. Earl Cunningham with a question, comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Cunningham.
That was my point exactly. It's not like Normandy Village doesn't have curbside pickup. They have a parking lot pickup. Everybody takes their stuff out there and puts it in a dumpster. It's much easier for solid waste to pick up that dumpster than it is to pick up 172 individual cans. And I think that's what Clay was saying before. It's a more profitable operation for them to do it the way they're doing it now. And that's why they gave the reduced rate in the first place. And the largest number of complaints I've heard is from people that own a 4-plex or 6 unit. And I didn't know they were getting a $3 discount in the first place. But any increase we pass on, they can't pass it on to the renters because the renters not paying any rent now with this rent waiver. So those are the ones I think Clay's exactly right. You're going to get your landlords associations going berserk because all we're doing is passing on a huge increase to them that they can't. The thing that we know for sure is this goes on the landlord's taxes, and eventually they get paid or there's a lien. So you can't really pass that on to somebody that's not paying the rent. All right. That's why I say it's a difficult time to be doing this because of the COVID and all the special exceptions we've got.
Yeah,
but there are some people. Yeah.
I guess, Clay, here's my one question though. So Normandy Village, are you telling me are they getting $3 per apartment that we are putting on their tax bill? So if they have 100 apartments, they're getting $3 apartment right now to their tax bill?
Yes, per month.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Mollenauer.
I agree with, I think everybody's comments been great on this, and I wasn't aware of that $3. I may have heard something a couple of years ago about it, but if I did, I failed to, with our workshop the other night, I know it wasn't brought up. But I agree with everybody saying, but I also think that Mr. Turner's right here, and several of you, with the fact that maybe we should give it, if we go with say a $2 increase like we're talking tonight per month, why maybe we give it about 6 months and a little bit further along to digest this, to talk about it more at a board meeting, and also hopefully the COVID situation will ease up, or let's all hope and pray that it's done by then. But I know that's wishful thinking probably, but give that a little bit more time to see how things go and make it be a lot easier on these apartment owners or corporations if that situation's done, and it would be easier on them. Like Mr. Cunningham just mentioned, that he's had some people calling him or talking to him about they're in some situations where they can't even collect some apartment rent right now. The smaller business people. That's my comment.
And just to be clear, this wasn't something that I did. This was something that was brought to the board. I believe it was back in 2012. The Landlord Association came to us and said, "Hey, you're killing me with these prices. You know, you're providing me with 1 can or 2 cans for my apartment house, but you're charging me $4 5, 6 times the cost. The board made that decision to reduce it to $3, and that was an agreement with the landlord association. That wasn't something that we did here in the office.
All right. Well, I guess yes, Councilman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, Clay, but just to respond back to that, whether it was done in 2012 or 2010 or wherever that agreement was made, and whoever was on the board at the time, I mean, we're almost 10 years later here, and what we're dealing with, with the rate increase, and, I haven't heard one thing from any, and it's been 2 weeks since we had our workshop. It's been in the paper. It's been at the council meeting. I have not gotten one phone call from any homeowners, citizens, rental apartment association, nothing as far as don't have this increase. And of course, nobody wants to have an increase, but I'm just saying whatever they did in 2012 is fine. Well, we're in 2021 now, and it's a whole different picture, and we have to generate money. We have to do what we think is fair. And what we're doing right now, I don't think is fair to, put this increase on, whether it's renters or whether it's homeowners, and then, increase or don't have the apartment building management owners, not have them pay their fair share. It's just not, to me, it's just not right. Thank you.
Thank you. So the public comment, we haven't officially closed public comment. If there's any more comments.
Like Mr. Stevens would like to say something.
Sure, Mr. Stevens.
Just so I clearly understand this, if a landlord has 100 single-family homes that he rents out, he's going to pay full cost. But if you have a 100-unit apartment complex, you're getting a break. I just want to be clear on this.
That's correct. But if you have 100 single-family homes, we'll provide you with 100 96-gallon toters. If you have a 100-unit apartment complex, we'll provide you one 30-yard dumpster. There's a large discrepancy between those two. You're not looking at apples to apples.
And by having that big dumpster out there for recycling, the management company is saving exponentially on their trash pickup. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would have to disagree with you on that because they just don't. People really can make trash in apartment complexes.
Thank you. While public comment is still open, are there any other members of the public before we close public comment for this and move on?
At what point might we be able to see the resolution or ordinance that's going to be passed that includes this rate increase? When will that be presented to the public?
I believe it'll be presented as soon as we do it.
And then by law, we have to advertise it within 30 days after the passage of the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So Clay, if we pass something this evening, is there still a step for the public to engage and ask questions before it becomes official?
No. I mean, unless the board says they want to hold it, but we have to be to the county probably by the end of March for them to roll it over into their taxes if there's going to be a user fee increase. So we'd be able to make it to their May tax bill. They send those out probably in April. So that your window is really shrinking right now if you're going to get the fee in place.
Well, tonight is the night.
Yes, sir.
What I want to clarify, Clay, what did we advertise for tonight? Was it a public hearing or a meeting or both?
Hearing.
Both.
Okay.
What did Robin, did you say it was a hearing?
Yeah, no, it was a hearing and a meeting. Yes, you're correct.
All right. Is there any more comment from the public? Any more public from the comment from the public? All right, hearing none, we're going to close public comment. We have quasi been doing our user fee discussion already. We'll continue that for anyone else who would like to continue going. I know, but before we delve any further, I do think that generally speaking, for the most part, whenever there's going to be a fee increase or a tax increase, usually, at least I'm of the opinion that, for public hearing wise, like we're doing tonight, granted we are, and it's going to be what the pleasure of the board is, obviously, but as far as I'm concerned, normally a meeting would follow a public hearing, and sometimes you can do it in the same night like we are here tonight. But I would like to see, personally, I would like to see whatever we're going to pass or resolve on tonight, if anything, that we have a second follow-up meeting with at least 2 weeks, since we do still have till the end of March. That way we could at least get some more comments in here and make sure we drill down on those numbers. But with that, I'll open the floor up to board members here who have more discussion on the user fee.
So, Mr. Chairman, what you're saying, and I guess Clay or Doug, I'd ask the question, if we don't pass it tonight, when would we have to pass it to make the spring tax bill?
The way I understand it, if whatever you pass tonight, we have to advertise within 30 days. So if you wait till the middle of March to have your meeting, the advertisement can run past. I mean, we could advertise it within a week, but then you don't have a week to look at it before it has to go to the tax rolls.
I mean, I guess I would say I'm willing to have a special meeting.
Yeah.
But I feel uncomfortable. I just want to know the data behind the rentals and know how many there are. Because again, it's the first unless I missed it, this was the first I've heard about it. So I know what I'm looking at and how many of those complexes there are.
I would want to review the notices because I don't know how much notice the apartment owners and landlords association received of any increase. I don't know if our advertisement for an increase included that concept. And if it did not, they're going to be entitled to notice and public comment on that issue.
Yeah. And I'm in agreement there with Mayor Dermody and Attorney BG with that as well.
Which sounds to me like it would push us past the deadline for the spring taxes, correct?
Not if we have a special meeting, Lynn.
Right.
We also want to see something in our hands. Passing an increase without actually seeing the language that Doug and Clay create, I think is, and the public then would be able to see it. We can post it and they can take a look at that.
Well, depending on what you're asking, we had to do, the publication had to be publicized twice, at least 10 days before your meeting, in order to talk about a user fee increase or even a user fee decrease. So I'm just not sure if you have that kind of a window. I mean, that's something that maybe Doug can look at and let us know if you're willing to accept tonight as your public hearing and just have a special meeting. I don't believe you need that type of time to advertise. You're asking for something that I really can't give you because you haven't given me direction. If you wanted a $2 increase, and I know you kind of gave us the signal for that, but my resolution doesn't reflect any type of an increase at all. It was waiting for tonight. We're going to insert those numbers in the resolution and then advertise the resolution in the newspaper for the public to see what that increase is. And I'm not discouraging you from having meetings, but Mr. Prespolinski said he's put it out all over the place, received no calls. It's been out all over our media and all of our places, and we've received 2. I think you're just postponing the inevitable. You're not going to get your calls until after the tax bills go out and people see the increase on their tax bills. Then they're going to call you and ask you, how did that get there?
Well, and if I may, Mr. President, Mr. Keel was just kind enough to text me the notice. And the notice just said increase in user fees. There's no distinction between residential and apartments. So I think you're okay to make a decision on apartments also without re-noticing.
It does say public hearing though, Doug. Is there some other notice for a regular meeting here? Because the two that I see indicate public hearing.
Well, that's why I said I want to read what was actually out and published. But if it just says hearing, you cannot take official board action.
Mm-hmm.
So apartment complexes were included in the notice then?
It was vague. It was not. And yeah, so what I'm looking at right here, I went back to my social media page here, what I posted, and there were over, this reached over 5,500, it had a reach of over 5,500 people. There were a lot of people who did comment on here that they were not necessarily happy. But again, commenting you're not happy on social media, while I do take that into account, people really need to send direct correspondence to the board or show up for public comment. But looking at it here, in the bold print at the top, it says LaPorte Solid Waste District Notice of Public Hearing. That's the one that I'm looking at here. It has a Zoom link meeting. And it says public hearing. It does not say a meeting on here anywhere that I see. It says public hearing specifically.
Okay.
So
if my conclusion is this, that we do not have to separately notify apartment owners because we just said users, right? But we need to set for a special meeting for a vote. Because if we just advertise public hearing, that's what we've done now in here. Now would recommend we set a special meeting. We don't have separate publication requirements for a special meeting. So we can do that with a relatively short turnaround.
We could vote next week and still meet the spring deadline.
Correct.
okay, is there Doug? Would there be any issue with a some sort of template resolution, not an actual passage of anything, but a template resolution? That way the public could actually have something that they could, have in their hands and see, as opposed to a more abstract idea.
Oh, sure. I mean, the resolution is not that complicated. It's a pretty simple thing, but you have to ultimately decide what the numbers are that go in. So I could certainly get a template resolution out that everybody can review beforehand. But I'm not going to put out a proposal or a number until the board decides what those are, both on individual units and apartments.
I guess, Clay, do you believe, well, and again, not knowing the numbers, could the numbers of the complexes reflect enough of enough customers that could generate the same amount of money by spreading it across everybody and take it from $2 to say $1.75?
Yes, if you was to charge $1.75 for every residential unit. So getting back to our example, Normandy Village that has 172 units, if we're going to charge them the exact same amount that we charge all the individual residents, absolutely, you'll be able to raise that kind of income. And while I have the three commissioners here, maybe you can get those numbers for us from either the treasurer or the auditor. What was billed and what was collected. They just basically tell me that this is what we collected, this is what we're paying you. Maybe they can break it down for you folks because you're the powers to be. Ask them how many apartment complexes are out there that have 4 or more units, and so we know.
Yeah, Mr. Haney?
Yes.
Yeah, question or a comment. Before I want to take a vote, whether to increase, decrease, $2, $1.50, or what have you, I want to know about these apartment buildings and apartment complexes and how much money, if they're included with this, instead of getting a break, the $3 break or $2 break or whatever it is, if they're charged like everybody else per apartment, what that means to the solid waste district. Do we have to increase, $2, like the mayor Dermody's saying? Can we go $1.50? Can we go $1.65? Before I take a vote, I want to know what those numbers are. So I know in my mind when because people are probably watching this discussion and they're saying, okay, well, what are these guys going to do? Or, what's this board going to do? Are they going to make a decision without having all the facts in front of them? And I always like to have all the facts in front of me so that when I go out and walk in the public, I know what I'm talking about. So I don't want to vote on anything until I get all those numbers, Clay.
And if I may, Mr. President, Clay, you get a lump sum number from the auditor's office. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so that means we're going to have to go to the auditor, and we can do this, but we have to go to the auditor, and then we have to go to the assessor's office and get some calculation on the number of units and buildings and break that number out. Otherwise, it's impossible to give the board a calculation.
Well, can't you pull it out just by the $3? Isn't there a program that'll pull it out instead of normal rates that this is $3 and we'll know everybody that's paying $3 would be a complex? Because are there any other special deals or lower cost to any other groups besides apartment complex?
We have an income base, but most people don't even qualify that as so low. And it takes a lot to jump through the hurdles to get the income base that there might be 5 or 6 people on, and it's just reduced 10%. It's not enough that that would help your numbers any.
I guess my question there would be, since Attorney BG went through that, is it possible, how long, just ballpark, do you think it's going to take to actually get our hands on that data?
I believe the assessor's office already has the data.
Okay.
I think so, because they maintain the database on rentals versus residential. So I think we can pull that from the assessor, and we should be able to do the math from there. I don't think it's going to be a long time or rocket science, but we've got to assemble that information in order to give you intelligent answers.
Well, I know the county has a lot of different coding mechanisms. They have a code for a 4-unit. They have a code for a 10-unit. They have a code for a 100-unit. So, but I would think the same as Mayor Dermody, that there should be some software program out there that they could pull those numbers. And I know at least Commissioner Haney has responded, but there's been an email trail to the auditor's office trying to get a meeting to set this up, and we just can't get it done.
Well, I can call Mr. Schultz tomorrow. Of course, he tells everybody he works 24/7. So we'll call him out on that. But I'm sure we could get a hold of Mr. Schultz, and I mean, his office is great. I suspect it's not going to be difficult information.
Okay.
So then, Mr. Chairman, would we want to set a meeting for late next week to take a vote?
Yeah.
I think as soon as we'll set a tentative meeting date for something like that, preferably the pleasure of the board, we'll set a tentative meeting date for that, and with the expectation that we can at least get make sure we have our 48 hours that were required for that, and then if we need to push it back a day or two, if it takes a little longer to get this information, then we will. But at least at this point, yeah, we need to get something on the books. So we, make sure we hit those deadlines. So we're not, coming up on the end of March and out of time.
See, I'm getting just a little bit uncomfortable with the deadline. I would just want to reach out to the treasurer's office just to make sure we have that deadline absolutely correct with, new people in positions. I want to make sure that we don't miss it by a week or something, or get told no, and then we're really going to be in dire straits. That's making me very uncomfortable.
Well, once they have our number, it's easy to roll the tax roll over to it. It goes on every residential, so they don't have to separate it. But
okay.
Just an FYI for the board, I'm not in next week. That's my vacation week.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're certainly welcome to meet without me, and you'll probably have better progress. Because if I didn't mention the part about the reduction for the apartment houses, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now, even though it's actually on the resolution that we have before us. So anytime during the week of the 22nd, I am available, Mr. Chairman, or if you and the rest of the board want to meet next week, if Mr. BG can get those answers for you, that would be great.
Mr. Chairman, again, I just want to
Yes.
make sure, I'm not sure I'm clear. If we pass this next week, if the information comes in and we feel comfortable, because I think most of us felt comfortable till hearing about the apartments.
Yeah.
If we pass late next week, are we still in line to get it on the spring tax bill?
That's an excellent question. So what I kept hearing, Mr. Turner, was that it's by the end of March. Do you have any more specific date than that, other than the end of March?
No, I do not. That's what I was told in the past. They have to do all their work, and they close out the tax rolls with all the new numbers so they can roll everything over, and you have to be out of it and done. That might be another question that we can reach out to Darlene or Lau and see if they would, or even Mr. Stables, the auditor, might know.
Okay.
They're going to shut it down, or Miss Winsky from the treasurer's office. It's kind of confusing when there's so many extra players involved.
Sure.
I just need a little bit clarification on, I think it has to be advertised, whatever you do pass. And maybe that's changed. Doug can look that up for us also. Within 30 days of the passage, I believe it's just within 30 days. I don't think it has to have a full 30 days before it goes on but even if that's true, we still have until May 10th.
Well, I'm not sure it's mutually exclusive either, Clay. I mean, if the publication validates the resolution decision of the board, the deadline to get on tax bills is administrative. So I don't think it has to be published all the way before, if we came to that. And I think we have time. But if it came to it, I think we could go ahead and pass, get on the tax bills and publish, but I don't think it has to be published before it goes to the county.
Okay.
All right. With that, do we have any other user fee discussion?
I guess, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman Haney, I'm going to ask one more.
No, go ahead, please.
Clay, based on, are these apartment complexes part of the 42,500 billings? They're a part of that bill from Republic, correct?
No, they are not.
Okay. Again, I'm not trying to mess this up here, or.
The 42.5 brings us in $2,022,000. And as you can see on our collections, we're bringing in approximately $2.5 million. So we're getting around 480,000 additional funds.
But I mean, the billing happens the same way. So this resolution, or what we were passing, would not have included those apartment complexes. It would just have included the 42,500.
That's correct. The apartment houses are a different area in our contract where we pay for either an 8-yard dumpster or a 30-yard dumpster, depending on the size of the apartment complex.
Well, I'm sure Republic would have data too on who they're picking up outside that 42,500.
Yeah, you don't want to ask them for that, because if they're only charging us 42.5 and they're picking up 44,000 residents, they're going to want to change their contract to 44,000 residents.
Well, I'd be surprised if they didn't know they're doing that.
Right.
They do know they're doing that, but we just don't want to keep bringing it to their attention. They've done a house count, because I challenged the 42.5 number, and they were able to prove that they're collecting 42.5.
How long ago was that, Clay, that was confirmed?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay. So it probably hasn't changed too much in the past 2 years, more than likely.
That's when they asked.
Probably trended up a little.
It did. That's when they asked if they could raise the house count, because we were, in our previous contract, we were at, I think it was 42,000 alone, and they did the mapping and came up and they said, we're picking up a lot more than 42,000, and they wanted 44,000, and we came to an agreement of 42.5.
Okay. So I would think theoretically to get started here, we could have a resolution where we could kind of have a fill in the blank situation for Clay to kind of fill in the numbers once these come back before the next meeting, depending on what Attorney BG is able to come up with, and everyone else as far as the which are the $3, which are the $4. Personally, I think that'll probably be a good way to proceed. I don't know what the pleasure of the board is, or if there's any other comment they want to make.
Just so the board knows that we didn't pass it on, but it's a simple one-page resolution. It basically just says what the Indiana code is that allows the board to make this determination. And as you can see, there's some blanks on here, and that was where you're supposed to put in the dollar amount. And it just has the date when it was going to start, and it has a clause in there that says, by the end of the year, we'll review these numbers and see if we need to increase or decrease. It was a pretty basic resolution. There's nothing mysterious in it.
Okay, and is there a separation in there to make sure not just for individual user, but also for the group users as well?
The what users?
Like group users or multi-unit, however you want to term that.
Right. It's item 3 under the therefore clause. It says the solid waste district of LaPorte County finds it in the best interest of the district to leave user fees in the amount of $3 per apartment with 4 more units beginning January 1st, 2021. Okay. Basically a one sentence therefore clause, which is what we're currently doing. Haven't been changed.
So could I make a resolution for a tentative meeting for Thursday, the 18th?
Is that when you're gone, Clay?
That's the day I'm getting back, is the 18th.
Would you be back and available possibly on the 19th, Mr. Turner? Or no?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do an evening meeting, I should be back in plenty of time for the evening meeting.
Yeah.
If you do a 1:30 meeting, I doubt if I'll be back in time for that. But on the 18th,
on the 18th, yeah, I would think another 6 or 6:30 type meeting would be appropriate, considering that way if there needs to be public comment. But I'll leave that to Mr. Dermody, as his motion is still out there.
I have a board meeting on the 18th in the evening with FMEC.
So
and
may I amend?
I would be there as well on the 18th. So yeah.
May I amend this motion to reflect the 19th of February for the meeting at 6:30 or 6 p.m.? I say at 6 p.m.
Sure. Yes. I think so. Does anyone have a conflict with that on the 19th, or would like to second it?
I have a conflict. That's Friday the 19th?
Yes.
Would 5 p.m. work or 5:30 help?
I could do earlier in the day, my day is packed that day. I'm sorry, that's a bad day for me, just in general. Unless we do a 9 a.m. meeting, I could do a 9 a.m. on that morning, because my first meeting's at 10.
Well, how about that following Monday, the 22nd? Would that be all right? Just push it off till Monday? That way everybody's available, I believe.
The LaPorte County Council meets on the 22nd in the evening.
Oh.
They meet at 6:30 though.
6:30 meeting that day.
What about a 5 p.m. on the 22nd?
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do that.
Just for clarification, the council's now meeting at 6 p.m. So 5 o'clock would probably work anyway.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor from Mayor Dermody for the 22nd at 5 p.m.
Second.
We have a second.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We'll be meeting at 5 p.m. on the 22nd. Is there anything else before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
Just that hopefully, we will have the data for us before we vote on that Monday.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Lynn?
I will advise the board we should have it. If it looks like we will not have it, I'll let you know either way.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. Lynn, did you have something?
I just wanted it reiterated what the plan was, who was in charge of doing what, because we're really just eating that calendar up, and I'm just nervous. I just wanted to make sure, who was in charge of what.
Well, Doug is going to get the information. Doug is going to get the information from the assessor's office or whichever county office he deems necessary to get it from. And then once Doug has that, he'll forward it onto the board.
Okay.
Robin and I will take care of scheduling a meeting for the 22nd at 5 p.m.
Yeah, Lynn, I'm sure you're going to hear from me as soon as I get the information, because I'm going to need your help in calculating for the board what the per unit cost is for the multi-families.
I'll be happy to help.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, you don't want me to do math.
I just, sounds like everybody will have no problem being there on the 22nd. We'll have a quorum and won't run into any further issues.
Sounds good. We appreciate it.
All
Hopefully,
right.
Hopefully Mayor Perry will be able to attend and he's feeling better. Hopefully he's on the mend well. Is there anything else?
No.
No? All right. In that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
The motion. And motion in a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.